Seclusion in the age of Covid-19. Right framing, right effort, mental well-being. These days, because of the global Covid-19 pandemic, many countries are in some kind of de facto lockdown, whether or not that dreaded word is used. Social interactions, which are so important for emotional and psychological well-being, are frowned upon. We are forced to suspend all events commemorating life's key milestones, birthdays, marriages, and even funerals. Even when we do meet, we have to be physically segregated, at least a meter apart, no hugging or touching, and keep it brief. We can no longer indulge in many activities that have given us some respite from daily stresses. We cannot go out at will for leisure and play. We cannot hang out with desired company. We cannot attend uplifting and spiritually affirming events. We have to stay indoors within the confines of four walls. Being confined indoors is very hard for many of us because suddenly we are confronted with our mind's natural habit, which is craving, tangha, or wanting. Now, craving has always been there, but it may not be obvious under normal circumstances because we are distracted or because we have the means to pacify it through temporary gratifications. When we feel bored, we go shopping. When we feel restless, we go to the gym. When we feel lonely, we look for pleasing company. We have multiple outlets to pacify craving. But any form of craving, however subtle, is still suffering, dukkha. The stronger the craving, the more intense the dukkha. In the past, when we had the usual outlets to release the pressure valve, we can pretty much ignore craving. Now, with nothing much to do and nowhere to go, craving is in the face. Dukkha has thus become very stark. How to make things easier? 1. Change narrative. For a start, we must try and change our perspective and narrative. Our mind is very malleable. What we say and how we say it will affect our moods and mental health. Words such as quarantine, lockdown, or forced isolation are laden with negative connotations. They all imply that we had been forced to do something quite disagreeable and unpleasant. Quarantine, in particular, conjures up images of the sick and dying. The more we use words implying loss of control, stress, and in dire situations, the stronger is our vibhava tangha, which literally translates as craving to not be like this. In other words, we crave for life to be different. Instead, try using words that carry a more positive and perhaps embracing a spiritual undertone, such as retreat or solitude. Tell ourselves that our circumstances are not very different from that of going for meditation retreats. As in all retreats, we stay away from society and keep interpersonal interactions to a minimum so that we have a quiet and alone time for spiritual contemplation. We can reflect on this seclusion period as unexpected, rare and precious me time, where we have no social obligations to meet, no deadlines to fulfill, no tasks to do, and no errands to run. Think about it. When do we ever have stretches of weeks where the world is legally bound to leave us alone? No one can impose on us during this period, not even our bosses. We have the freedom to do as we wish in our little oasis. We can either choose to spend this time meaningfully and wisely for spiritual growth, or fritter it all away on sense pleasure, binging, complaining, or whining. It is entirely our call. 2. Tackle mental defilements with right effort. A big challenge for many of us during the seclusion period is coping with mental defilements, especially boredom and restlessness. They are particularly obvious if we had been used to a life filled with numerous distractions and engagements. We may think that there is no harm and it is normal to be bored and restless. But the problem with defilements is how swiftly they can multiply, spiral out of control, and take a strong grip within. We start with just simple boredom, and before long, we feel agitation and anger, despair and loneliness, fear and worry, wanting and longing, and so on. Therefore, for our mental well-being, we cannot afford to entertain any smidgen of mental defilement. In fact, we must purge negative and unwholesome akusala, mental states, as soon as we become aware of them. Because the longer they linger in the mind, the harder it will be to neutralize them. Letting go of negativity is obviously not easy, but it can be done. We must have faith that is so, and we must have the discipline to apply the necessary countermeasures until results show. Neutralize mental defilements. Mental defilements are not difficult to spot because they feel unpleasant, some more so than others. As soon as we notice that we're feeling a bit down, a bit angsty, that means there is a presence of a mental defilement. Pay just enough attention to note its presence, but don't engage it at length. Don't try and justify its presence. Don't go into self-recrimination. Suspend thinking altogether and take a couple of deep breaths. This step buys us a little time to ride the negative mental energy without feeding it. As we focus on breathing, whatever negative feelings will come down. We can stay calm for as long as we suspend thought construction. We may find ourselves struggling not to revisit that object of agitation. That is normal. Just continue to focus on breathing. As long as you stay in the present and not lapse into thinking, you are denying the negative mental energy an opportunity to grow. This is applying right effort. Samma Vayama, which is number 6 in the Noble Eightfold Path to prevent mental defilements from staining our minds. Nurture mental purity. But don't just stop at purging the negative and unwholesome mental states. We must also deliberately rouse positive and wholesome, that is kusala, mental states, which could be anything from gratitude and humility to friendliness, which is commonly known as metta, or compassion, also called karuna, to generosity, patience, empathy, faith, and so on. The beauty about wholesome mental states is their universal nature. If we successfully trigger just one of them, other wholesome states will also arise. We only have to select the one that arises most naturally and easily for us and work at proliferating it. To kickstart the process, we may have to do a little verbal and purposeful reflection. For instance, if we have strong faith in the Buddha, then reflect on his qualities, his life, and his teaching. When faith surges up from within, a feeling of joy will follow. Embrace the joy, nurture it, let it flow. In this way, we flip a mental switch to turn away from the unwholesome and convert the moment into wholesomeness. For daily wholesome living, humans are creatures of habits, so some degree of routine is comforting. You may want to work out a simple daily schedule to inject some predictability into your life. Now that you have time and less distraction, this is an excellent opportunity to live by the Dhamma. Consider starting the day on a wholesome note. If you have a shrine, take a bow before the Buddha. Give thanks for your good health and blessed life, and for that of your loved ones. Make a sincere aspiration that you will live by the tenets of his teaching this day, and that you will speak and act as wholesomely as possible throughout the day. That you will not be a source of pain and distress for another, but a source of relief and comfort. Doing so sincerely and with resolve will help affirm your faith. Make it a point during this period to look out for another. If you live with family or friends, do your part to help them cope. That will take your mind away from obsessing about your own discomfort and agitation. Give them emotional support. Sit and laugh with them. Give them full attention and listen. And not be caught up with your own mobile devices. You are practicing generosity if you spend constructive and wholesome time with others instead of hogging it for yourself. Even if you live alone, you can still check up on your friends and family. Message them to find out how they are coping. Write them encouraging notes. These days, mobile phones are ubiquitous. Message a different person each day to thank them for something, to share warm thoughts, and to encourage and speak kind words. If you were to write just one thank you note a day for every day of your seclusion, you would have warmed the hearts of many people whom you care for. This is your practice of metta. Feel free to keep up with the news, but be judiciously selective on what you share. Take guidance from Buddha's teaching on right speech, samma vacca, that it must be true, beneficial, timely, gently conveyed, with friendliness. In accordance with right speech, do avoid circulating fake news. If you are unsure about its authenticity, check it first. If you can find nothing to substantiate the information, it is better not to circulate. Also, avoid sending out negative, critical, and potentially harmful writings, for they are disheartening and distressing and can cause more harm than benefit. What is the point of proliferating unwholesomeness? Therefore, do not forward all forms of hate speech, scandalous gossips, and damaging innuendos. And finally, on the point of timeliness, in this period of social unease and uncertainty, do guard against any instinct to want to deliver breaking news. The timing of when critical information is released can be instrumental in preventing mass hysteria and safeguarding public health, peace, and order. This is upholding right speech. Next, for those among us who are keen to deepen spiritual practice, consider setting aside at least a third, if not more, of your waking hour on Dhamma contemplation and meditation. Perhaps aspire to read a discourse or sutta a day. Make notes. Commit to memory key points. Learn well. Use the Dhamma points that you have gathered from your reading to reflect on how they can be applied to your life. If you are disciplined and consistent, you will have a nifty little Dhamma collection by the end of your retreat. This is cultivation of learning. Sutta. Find a quiet spot where you can sit undisturbed for at least 10 to 15 minutes, or for as long as you wish. The typical mind drifts willy-nilly all over the place. Meditation, it's about training the mind to act to the contrary, to stay alert and present and be focused on wholesomeness, simplicity, and contentment. This is concentration, Samma Samadhi practice. And finally, giving yourself a little Dhamma workout throughout the day may be the best gift you can give yourself. At night, before you sleep, if you had indeed spent the day living wholesomely, your mind will be light, joyous, and peaceful. Your faith may blossom. You are uplifted and inspired. Take a mental bow and give thanks to the Triple Gem. Know that there is much merits accumulated in living blamelessly. With generosity and gratitude in the heart, share those merits with all sentient beings and sincerely wish all well and happy. You can say simply, by the merits accumulated from all the good that I have done today, may I be well and happy. May my family and friends be well and happy. May all beings, wherever they are, be well and happy. Any joy that arises will purify your mind further. This is a modest practice of metta, friendliness, and generosity. Time will pass very quickly. Before you know it, this rare and precious period of seclusion will be over. and you're back in the hustle and bustle of life. If you had used this retreat period wisely and meaningfully, you might discover the true joy of leading a simpler, more peaceful life with less wanting and more present living. This is part of ongoing cultivation of wisdom. So don't waste this unexpected bonus time. Make it your best investment for mental and spiritual well-being. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.